Hello, tube of you. I'll be back in just a second. I'm just going to grab my guitar. I think that's always a useful thing to have when you're making streams about guitars. Ooh, it's always a weird. Useful thing to have when you're. Let me just turn that off. Professional as ever. Right then, I'll be back in a second. So yeah, welcome aboard to who have we got? The people who are watching at the moment. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Nye, if you haven't seen me before, from Folk Friend and Finale Guitar in Sheffield. That's the shop that I run. I teach guitar there as well. Yeah, in today's video, I'm going to be having a look at some strumming patterns. I'm going to be looking at a few patterns that I've already used in previous videos, like the normal jig strumming pattern and the upside down jig strumming pattern, which is my favorite way of strumming jigs. I'm also going to be having a little look at reels and hornpipes, which I've covered in previous videos as well. But we're going to be going into a little bit more depth than in previous ones on kind of how to vary your patterns over time, make them more interesting. WYSIWYG, hello, welcome aboard. Thanks for tuning in. So yeah, I had a message from Olivier, who was watching the last broadcast, who said, can you talk about strumming patterns, I think, or something along those lines. And Brian has just said, can you talk about how to vary them over time? So let's start out by looking at jig patterns. So I'll give some examples. I'll just kind of play as if I were jamming along with a jig in G major, just a bit so you can see what I'm playing. So I might be doing something with the sort of normal da-da-diddly pattern, as I call it, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. I might do something like this. Etc. There's a few ways you can make that more interesting. At the ends of sections, I like to do a diddly dum. That's a good one to kind of round things off. So you go biddle-doo-bum, kind of like that. It's like so what I'm actually doing there for the diddly dum is down, up, and then a karate chop, a palm mute on the end, so that it cuts off. So I'll just play that. I'll play a whole A part with a diddly dum on the end, and then I'll carry on as if I were going into the B part. That kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, it's all about the diddly dums. It's when I start talking about the diddly iders that you'll know I've gone too far. Yeah, so the diddly dum is one nice thing for ending things. Another thing you can do with the jig strumming pattern is turn it upside down. I've talked about that in previous videos as well. That's where instead of doing down, down, up, you do it all back to front. So up, up, down. It's a little bit tricky to get this to hit the lower pitched strings because your plectrum's coming upwards. Obviously, it's going to start at the higher pitched end. So you want to kind of make sure that you're moving the whole of your arm from here all the way down so that you're definitely hitting those lower strings on the dominant beats of the bar. That's really important that you've got that low end there on the beats of the jig where your foot is tapping. So quavers 1 and 4. So I'll give you a little demo of what the upside down pattern sounds like just normally, and then we'll start throwing some variations into it. So that's exactly the same thing that I did before, except all the strokes of it are upside down. So the normal pattern's up, up. Sorry, the upside down pattern is up, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then my diddly dum becomes up, down, and then a palm mute. Whereas the old one was down, up, and then a palm mute. But it's really the same thing upside down. The reason I really like the upside down pattern is because if you've done, let's say you've done one round of the tune with it just normal, how I just played it, which sounds more or less the same as the regular Dada Diddly pattern, what you can do then is this. This really nice effect with the palm mute. So I'm doing up, up, down, and when I do that downstroke, I'm deliberately hitting this fleshy, fat part of my hand here against the strings like that. If I just come up a bit closer as well, what you want to do is kind of extend the fingers so the fingers hit the pick guard or the wood of your guitar if you haven't got one, and then the plectrum kind of ends up down here below the strings somewhere. So it's quite a fair way below the strings when I do my mute. And that means that it's ready then to come straight back up and hit the upstroke straight after. So you've got up, up, chop, up, down, up, chop, up, down, up, chop, up, down, up, chop, up, down. So that's one really nice variation you can do. Another thing that I like to incorporate into both versions of the jig pattern is a triplet. Just before I get onto that, there is one other version of a jig strumming pattern which you see a lot of traditional guitarists doing. Hey Yvonne, welcome aboard. Personally, I don't really like this pattern because I've always found it to be completely counterintuitive. However, the vast majority of people that I teach seem to gravitate towards this one naturally. So, yeah, go figure. I don't know why. But anyway, I'll tell you about it quickly. It goes down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, like that. So it sounds something like... It has its merits, this pattern, because it's easier to incorporate triplets into it. And if you're just doing down, up, down, down, up, down, you can elect to miss out the second of those quavers to make it sound very much like the other two. So that is down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. So yeah, that exists as well. Personally, I don't use it very much, but it's there if you want to practice it. Is it possible for you to play a tune CD in the background? Yes, I've given this some thought. It is possible, but it's very difficult practically for me to do it because I've got the stream up on the computer so I can see the comments, and I'm streaming from a phone in order to be able to use my mobile data to make the stream work properly. I have issues with the audio not syncing up and things, so it's very complicated, I'm afraid. So yeah, I will hum along with, I'll hum some tunes or whistle them in a minute so that you can hear how it fits with a tune. Yeah, but that's the closest I've managed to get to that so far, but I am working on it. Portable CD. Yeah, potentially in future. The other thing is, because obviously I'm in Spain and I'm stuck here without any of the kit that I normally have, I'd have to order stuff in off Amazon or something, which is probably a coronavirus risk. But anyway, what was I on about? Triplets. Triplets are the good stuff. So I'll just kind of play something with upside down strumming, and then I'll put some triplets in it so you can hear what they sound like. So here's that same kind of standard G major jig pattern again. So the little dingly dingadings, that's my favourite type of triplet. It's quite difficult to describe how you do them. It's basically a little wrist flick. So you're still doing your down, up, up, down, and then for the next one, it's up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down. Oh. Yeah. I tell a lie. So it's up, up, down, down. Then for the next one, you do down, down, up, down. Sorry, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Let me say that again. The normal pattern is up, up, down, and then you go down, up, down, down, up, down. So it's normally up, up, down, down. Then for the triplet, you deliberately start on a down, 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 and then you can carry on with your pattern. So let me play that really slowly because it is well confusing. Up, up, down, down. Then for the triplet one, down, up, down, 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 up, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, down. Yeah, yeah. As you can see, it's quite tricky to break down something that you normally do so fast. Basically, what you're doing is deliberately starting the bar's worth of pattern on a downstroke where it should be an upstroke, so that then you can do a up, down, up really fast, and then a down, up, down for the second half of the bar, and it all fits in, and your hand is then ready to come back up for the regular up, down pattern. I hope that makes sense. So where I like to do that usually is in a fourth bar, often like the ends of the section or something like that, to kind of add excitement. This is also a thing that I wouldn't probably do. Like I was saying before, you might do one time through the tune plain upside down strumming. Then the second time, to pep it up a bit, you might add the palm mutes, the sort of percussive, sounds a bit like a snare drum on the offbeats. And then maybe the third time through, you might start adding some triplets in, a bit of flair to show off and really add energy to it, or something like that. Anyway, so here's a little example again, really slowly. Etc. That kind of thing. Yeah, it's really difficult to do it slowly, actually. It's one of those techniques that's probably actually easier to learn faster, which is unusual. That is... Oh, another thing I like to do a lot with jigs is kind of syncopate them. I'll play it first, and then I'll try and show you what I'm doing. That kind of thing. And what I suppose what I'm really doing there is where you've normally got bang ba 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 bang ba 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 ba. Sometimes I like to not miss out the second quaver, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strums, and deliberately accentuate the wrong ones. What I tend to do now that I think about it is instead of 1 and 4, which is what you'd normally accentuate, I instead accentuate 2 and 4, I think. I'm gonna have to play it full speed again. Sorry, I can't do it otherwise. Oh, so it's one normal pattern, dun dun ba ba ba, and then like three little strums, up down up, and then strum nothing strum. So up down up strum strum. So actually, I've taken the whole pattern and turned it backwards, because normally you'd have 1, miss out 2, strum 3, and then 4, 5, 6. So that'd be bung bung da da da. And what I'm doing now is these 3 are unaccentuated, the first 3, bung bung bung, and then accentuate that one as you normally would, but also accentuate the last one, so you get dig dig ding ding. So that's a nice little variation to practice. Up down down, like that. Yeah, exactly. It's deliberately playing off the beat. And there are all sorts of other ways that you can do that. Most of the kind of rhythmic variations that I play now, including the upside down strumming, at some point I was trying to play the normal pattern and the tune got too fast, or I drank too much in some cases, or it was just a weird tune and I lost track of where the rhythm was, and I ended up playing something wrong, and then I turned into something that I liked later on and ended up using as a rhythmic variation. Like my upside down strumming pattern that I play all the time is because a flute player I used to play with a lot played this tune where the A part was a jig and the B part was a slip jig. And every time she played it, I ended up playing completely the wrong thing. And it always ended up with me playing my jig pattern upside down. And then one day I was like, actually, I quite liked the jig pattern upside down when I discovered the palm muting trick. And so it stuck. So I won't talk too much more about jig pattern variations, because what you really need to do is just experiment with deliberately accentuating the wrong beats of a bar, and then put maybe 3 bars of a normal upside down jig pattern, and then try sticking one of your incorrectly accentuated ones at the end and see if it works as a cool variation. That's a really good way of coming up with new ones. So what have we done? We've done normal strumming, traditional strumming, upside down jig strumming, triplets, and 2 little variations for those. Let's move on to slip jigs, because I haven't made a video about them yet, and they are a really common rhythm in Irish music, which sort of confuses a lot of people because they're in odd numbers of beats. So slip jigs are tuned in 9/8. I like to try and tell people to think of it as apples and barrels of sausages, apples and barrels of sausages. So you've got like 3 kind of main foot tap beats in every bar: apples and barrels of sausages, apples and barrels of sausages, that kind of thing. But every single one of those is split into 3 quavers. So dum da diddle dee diddle dee dum da diddle dee diddle dee 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Now, if you're a guitarist like myself who likes the sort of conservation of momentum principle to apply to their strumming patterns, that means that you end up going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's one bar. Then the next bar, your hand's just gone down and it kind of needs to come back up again. So at that point, you end up doing the same pattern, but all upside down. That's how I have always done it. That's how I still like to do it. I will admit that the traditional pattern I mentioned before, where you go down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, definitely has its place for playing slip jigs, because rather than having to effectively learn two patterns and switch between them every other bar, with that pattern you can just do down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So let's have a look at that. Here's down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, and I'll hum a tune while I'm doing that. The tune I'm going to hum is a tune called The Butterfly. Tune's in E minor, so the main chords are going to be E minor and D major. Here we go. Etc. etc. Yeah, you're right. Yes, I prefer whistling to humming. Certainly louder. So that's the kind of down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down version. Here is the version that I prefer, which goes down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then it switches for the next bar to up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and so on. So it's basically just moving your hand up and down like a robot on every quaver, but accentuating all the ones that your foot taps on. So here's how that would sound. Etc. etc. So you can hear really there's not a great deal of difference. So whichever of those is your preference, both good. What I suggest you do to make it not just sound like you're just doing, strumming every single quaver, to make it more rhythmic, is like the jig pattern, miss out the second quaver of every bar. So you get dunk, dunk, diddle, dee, dunk, dunk, diddle, dee, and try and really accentuate the first, fourth and seventh quavers, the three that your foot taps on. If you're strumming and your foot isn't tapping, tap your foot. It's like the best strumming technique tip I can give you is tap your foot on all the beats, because if your foot is tapping, your brain is kind of already synced up to the music. It's already performing a motion in time with the music, and when your arm moves as well, your brain will automatically do the arm movements at the same time as the foot movements. So it's really useful to tap your foot. Anyway, in the same way as the triplets, you can insert, in the same way as the jigs that I talked about before, you can insert triplets into slip jigs. So you can do things like that kind of thing. So what I'm doing there is down, down, up, down, up, down, up, like that. Down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. To stick a triplet in the normal way up version of the slip jig strumming. When you get to so if you're sticking with my conservation of momentum version of the slip jig strum, it's easier to put triplets in the version that starts with a downstroke. You can do it in the upstroke ones as well. I'd say experiment with both. Try and get used to doing both if you can. The other thing you can do is when you're on the bit that starts with an upstroke, you can stick that palm mute in there, so you get. Sorry, that was rubbish. I'm going to do that again. So what I'm actually doing there is down, a little pause, up, karate chop, up, down, 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 up, chop, up, down, and then up, down, up to finish the bar off. Down, up, chop, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, chop, up, down, up, down, up. So I'm actually breaking my rule of moving your hand on every quaver in order to get the karate chop in there. But it really adds a nice bit of variation, maybe the second time through the tune or something like that. So down, up, chop, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, chop, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, chop, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, chop, up, down, up, down, up. How do you find finger picking that rhythm? It's tricky because it's in odd numbers, and anything in odd numbers in music is harder than the sort of more natural way of doing music, which is in blocks of 4. Yeah, it's definitely doable. Talking of finger picking, I've actually written a book of Irish fingerstyle arrangements, which is going to be out next month. I've finished writing it now. I've written all the instructions. I've written 10 tabs for 10 of my favorite tunes. Well, 8 of my favorite tunes and 2 extra ones that I put in there because they're very popular and lots of people ask me about them. But yeah, they're sort of arranged in order of difficulty from pretty easy to quite complicated. So there's going to be more news about that coming very soon on the Folk Friend channel. But in that, I've actually done a slip jig, which is a fig for a kiss, and I worked out a finger picked version of that. And yeah, it is quite a tricky rhythm to finger pick sometimes, just because it's sort of angular and irregular. But I like it. I think slip jigs are one of my favourite things to play along with, just because they're a bit more. They've got a bit more. They're more complicated. They're more fun. It's a challenge, you know. Anyway, last thing for today. Reel variations. I've talked in previous videos about how to strum reels and the sort of standard like. You know, the standard reel strum that everybody does. I'm going to talk just a little bit about the more fun, I think, funk reel strumming pattern, which I like to do sometimes. So on a G chord again, it sounds something like this. Etc. etc. I've not heard that one. I'll have to have a look. But yeah, the funk pattern. So if we kind of break it down, this works better with players who play the tune very swung. swung versus straight. Basically, a reel can be played straight or swung. If it's straight, it kind of goes, all the quavers are equally spaced apart, so they're like pa 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 pa. Pum pa 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 pum pa 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 pum pa 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 pum. All the quavers are equal lengths. If I hum that same tune swung, every even numbered quaver comes a bit later. So it goes something like bum ba ba doo ba ba doo ba doo. Which makes it a lot more funky, and you'll find different players play things with more or less swing. There's variation in regional styles of Irish music as well. Anyway, so this pattern fits with players who play tunes more swung, and it basically, I'll just have to play it really slowly and see if you can get something out of it, because to try and describe it with ups and downs, I think would take me an hour. So here it is on a G chord. Etc. So what I'm doing, my hand's moving on every quaver, or eighth beat as the Americans call them, and I'm doing down, up, down, very quiet, up, down, up, very quiet, down, up, down, very quiet, and then like down, up at the end, I think, or something like that. So down, up, down. There's 4 quiet ones before the down, up, down, up. So down, up, 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 etc. And like all good patterns, you can make it a lot more interesting by modifying how much palm muting you do in it. So if you're doing that pattern, if you mute some of them, you get the funk pattern that I was on about. So what I'm doing there, I'm doing that downstroke at the start, and while my hand is down there, straight away I'm just twisting my wrist slightly so that this flabby part of my hand at the bottom hits the strings, like that. And then with my hand kind of more or less just touching the strings a little bit, I'm doing the up and the down that precede that. Hey Olivier, yeah, no worries. I will be uploading it on the channel later. When I finish this, it automatically will save it on the channel, so you'll be able to watch it again at the end. Sessions that I went to in Spain. I have only ever been to one session in Spain, because I only got here about a week before the coronavirus fiasco started, and then all the sessions got cancelled. So I went to one in Paddy's Bar in Granada, which I highly recommend. It's a wicked bar, really nice people. Shout outs to Steve and Louis, wicked players, really nice people. Good bar, nice crowd. Yeah, I had a wicked time. Go and check it out if we ever get let out the house ever again. But apart from that, no. In Sheffield, where I normally live, I go to some very. To be honest, I don't really go to sessions very much. I'm a bit lazy. Occasionally, I go to Fagan's, which is good, but not very much. Anyway, going back to that pattern, then I've given it some thought, and actually, what you've got is always a loud strum, then two quiet ones, then a loud strum, then two quiet ones, then and it does that 3 times, and then two quiet ones, and then a down up to finish it all off. So with the mutes, you can kind of just mute all the ones that aren't the loud ones by just gently resting your hand on the strings. That kind of thing. Now I'm going to have to finish up in a minute because my battery is about to die. That's why my eyes keep drifting off into the corner there, because my little battery meter is clipping away at me in its irritating way. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you all for tuning in. Last thing I'm going to say is this thing about palm muting. Brian was asking before about how to vary a tune over the course of it, how to vary your backing as it wears on. More or less, palm muting is the best way you can vary your backing without changing the strumming pattern. If you're doing da-da diddly for a jig, for example, and the second time through the tune it builds and it builds, you're strumming as hard as you can, it gets louder and louder and louder, you've played all your most interesting chord shapes, you run out of ideas, then the thing to do is suddenly chop right back and play. Mute it loads. If there's one thing we can learn from deep house DJs, it's that a really cool thing to do is let a thing build up and get more and more spacious. And on a guitar, that means whack the chords harder and let them ring out more, and then suddenly chop them right back and mute them so that they're all really clipped and staccato. And that makes a really nice sudden contrast. And actually, by cutting back, you can add a lot of energy to the accompaniment. So yeah, find your names for patterns really helpful. Good, thank you, Brian. I'm glad you like them. I aim them for the sound. I feel this wants to stand up downs. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's with the jig strummings. There seems to be some people seem to just naturally gravitate towards doing down up down down up down. In fact, most people seem to, and then some people, like myself, just, I suppose it's kind of laziness in a way. You don't want to have to keep suddenly changing the direction of your arm all the time. You just want to return from the direction in which it was previously going. So whichever camp you fall into, pick one pattern and work on that one mainly. You can always come back to the other one later on. But yeah, anyway, that's it for today. I'll be back next Friday. If anybody's got anything particular they'd like to know about, anything they'd like me to make videos about, leave a comment in here or send me a message. You can find a link to my website in the box down below. Get my ebook if you're interested in the sorts of stuff I'm talking about here. There's much more in-depth versions of everything in that, with chord diagrams, ear training exercises. It's got a folder full of audio demonstrations, loads of stuff. You can also get an amazing mode wheel. They're very, very useful. They show you all the chords that fit in any key for folk music. Not at the moment it doesn't, because it's turned to a blank space. There we go, that's better. And they also show you how the modes fit together, which is a really useful bit of music theory for Celtic musicians. Anyway, you can find that at finaleguitar.co.uk/shop. And if there's anything else you want to know about, just drop me an email, info@finaleguitar.co.uk. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. It won't let me end the stream. That's it. I'm going to stream for it. Here we go. Goodbye.